Welcome back, Snacks. My name is Jack. Today is a collection of recent updates to people finally putting their foot down on entitled people. Let's get into it. Beginning in late July, am I the a-hole for refusing to share my vacation home with my in-laws for 6 months after they sold their house without consulting me? Some background. My husband, 35 male, and I, 33 female, have been married for 5 years. We own a beautiful vacation home on the beach that we built ourselves and use throughout the year. My in-laws, in their 60s, have always been welcome guests, visiting for a few weeks here and there, and contributing financially towards maintenance costs. Last month, my in-laws suddenly announced they were selling their house to downsize and move into a tiny condo. Apparently, they've been secretly harboring this idea for months, never mentioning it to me or my husband. They plan to close on the sale in 2 weeks and then move into our vacation home for 6 months while they figure things out. I was floored. This house is our sanctuary, not a retirement home extension. We use it frequently, have friends and family booked to visit throughout the year, and rely on the income it generates during peak season. My in-laws, on the other hand, haven't lifted a finger on the property themselves and contributed only minimally. My husband, bless his sweetheart, is more understanding. He feels bad for his parents and believes we can make it work. His in-laws, sensing my resistance, are now guilt-tripping us, claiming they have nowhere else to go and offering to pay significantly more than their usual contribution. So am I the a-hole for refusing to let them move in? On one hand, I feel obligated to help my family in need, but on the other, this feels like an outrageous imposition on our personal space and finances. Now, what's notable here is apparently this is not the first time that the OPs felt they have overstepped their boundaries. It doesn't help that the husband typically finds nothing wrong with the way they behave and that we should just be good to them because they're his parents. But okay, you might be wondering what exactly they've done in the past that would make the OP feel inclined to state this is a reoccurring behavior of theirs. Well, here's some absurd examples. Our first marriage anniversary, they gifted us a chicken. We lived in an apartment at the time. On Valentine's Day, the second year, they showed up at our house mid-afternoon because they thought it would be special to spend the night with us. Okay, Mom, Dad, Valentine's Day is for making family, not family. There's the making there that makes it very important to understand. On the birth of our daughter, my mother-in-law refused to leave the delivery room until I had the nurse drag her out, and then she sobbed obnoxiously loud in the hallway outside the room. When COVID happened, she ordered us cases and cases of beans and other canned food to help us prep for the apocalypse and then sent us the bill. Oh my god, what is this tactical warfare? My mother-in-law demands all holidays with them and shows up unannounced to my parents, who are 4 hours away each holiday we spend with them, and forces us out of my bedroom and we sleep on the pull-out sofa the whole visit. My mother-in-law demanded my husband go to her house last year to fix something on our daughter's birthday and then kept him there till after the birthday party was over, and then had a birthday party she planned for my daughter at her house the next day. Our second daughter's birth was similar, where she sobbed and instantly FaceTimed my husband since I refused to let her into my delivery room. Finally, she sent a mixed nuts package to my parents at Christmas this last year, knowing my dad is deathly allergic to tree nuts. I could go on and on. You know, at first I could class this all as blatant, genuinely stupid ignorance, but that last part, ooh, that's manslaughter, if that went through, you know? So 2 days later, they return, offering a quick update of sorts, answering some more questions such as, we co-own the beach house. So we bought it in 2020 when interest rates were super low before houses skyrocketed. The in-laws have helped us with projects and pay for a few things, but so do my parents. So, we have never thought of their contribution as anything but help from parents. They had their annual Old Farts Christmas party, their words, not mine, there this past December, and had the place for a week free of charge for them and all their guests. So they definitely have gotten plenty of use of it. We had a come to Jesus moment yesterday, and I was the a-hole to my husband. I told him I was done, and I wasn't even entertaining them staying there, as it's our business, and this is bad business. I basically told him I was over his mom, and it was at the point that I'm about to peace out because I can't handle her Schmidt anymore. No, previous to this, I was no contact with her and would entertain them when they'd come to visit. They never stayed at our house as we live relatively close to them. He still has no clue if they're truly selling their house, if they're upside on bills, or they're just a-holes, but I absolutely don't care. My parents are immigrants and own a restaurant and have worked their butts off to create a fantastic life for me and my siblings. They also taught us the value of money and working hard for the things we have. The vacation home was bought cheap, but 90% of the renovations were done by me during my free time. Renovations are my true love. Nursing pays the bills. I mean, I love it too, but it doesn't fill the creative cup. I told him he'd lose the house to his parents over my dead body, and if he feels the need to financially set them up, he can do so with extra money he earns from picking up shifts, because he's also a nurse. Basically, I told him their failure was not an emergency on my part. They have always kept up the Jones and spent exorbitantly, so they might be broke, and again, I don't care. I have barely tolerated his mom for the past few years. I'll be cordial because I was raised well, but I'm over tolerating their nonsense. Now, I will say, he does see all this stuff she pulls, but he was raised that mom knows best. He's Puerto Rican, so this is partially cultural. But I'm done. I worked yesterday and busted my butt and then drove the kids to the beach house last night and picked up dinner, and we are there, and I just thought, frick no. So time will tell, but he called his parents and on speakerphone told them they couldn't stay. But the offer to condo hunt is still open, but he needs to know the price range and all that jazz. His mom cried and I flipped the phone off. So as of this moment, it's not happening. I also told him if it's a problem, he can quit, claim deed of the beach house, and I'll cover the expenses and manage it myself. Cause mama don't play. So there's a dark theory going around as to why the mother-in-law sent those peanuts that are deathly allergic to dad. Oh, mother-in-law was hoping to make herself and the father-in-law the only grandparents. Either way, as harsh and almost ultimatum it sounds that OP was being here, it seems like it was the best choice to do. As everyone says, it seems the husband was really willing to lay down and roll over and let his parents assert dominance over him for the beach house. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the moment they'd moved into that place, they were not bothering to leave. They were not going to continue house hunting for 6 months until they find a place. No, they were going to establish their just residency there and be like, oh, we've basically been here for 6 months now. We might as well just make this place our own. But don't worry, OP. You can still come visit us. Another one from late January. Am I the a-hole for preemptively striking against splitting the bill at a group dinner? Title says it all, but here's the story. I was invited to a group dinner and decided to go. I usually decline because 2 couples in this group are freeloaders and the split the check type. They order expensive items on the menu, appetizers and cocktails, while I get a moderately priced dish and a Coke. I was told they wouldn't be there this time, and that's why I decided to go. Well, they were there. I didn't bother asking what the story was because it didn't matter. I knew what was gonna happen come check time. So I excused myself, went to flag down my server, and asked if he would please separate my bill from the others. He agreed. When time came to pay the bill, I handed the server my CC and paid my bill. I tipped 25%. The freeloaders went, "Oh, I thought we were splitting like we always do." To which I said, "Oh, well, you're bad." But this prompted 2 other people in the group to ask for separate checks too, which the server happily did. After I paid, I told everyone good night and went on my way. Well, the next day I got a text from another person in the group, 9 total, the 2 freeloading couples and 5 solos, that I was an a-hole for doing that. They do normally split the bill, as it gives everyone a chance to have a nice meal they couldn't otherwise afford. And it also makes splitting the 20% group gratuity easier. I told her I would not be guilted to staying within my means and not paying for Moochers. Then I said the only reason why I came was because I thought the Mooch couples wouldn't be there because they've been doing this for years. Still, I'm being accused of disrupting the group vibe. Did I though? I would think not, because of the 2 that also asked for separate bills. Now, you won't find it too surprising that the very person who criticized OP in that text saying that they were an a-hole, well, as OP responds to comments, turns out she sometimes takes advantage too. Though she's not as brazen as the mooch couples. I think she was implying I could and should take advantage too from time to time, but that's not how I roll though. I'm very pay your own way. Yeah, it's one thing to want to treat your financially poorer friends. It's another when you expect that of them. Of course, there is one thing to consider here. It does depend on where you eat. As some mention, Asian style shared dishes. The more people you have means you actually can afford a lot more variety for the same price. Of course, that also still depends on everyone eating everything, to be fair. I think it's important to highlight that not every single place you go to where you're splitting the bill, you shouldn't immediately assume that the friends you're hanging out with are just trying to leech off you. So to quickly summarize, they all roughly make the same amount of money. These aren't just like people who are living on minimum wage who are coming out to hang out with their friends. People are always allowed to and welcomed to decline invitations if it's out of their price range or budget. So they're not always going to the most expensive places possible. Also, they always go to the same restaurant, a Brazilian steakhouse, where everyone in the group likes steak, so it's an easy choice. So we can also scratch the idea that everyone is sharing different particular things, so there's a crazy fluctuation of price and stuff like that. So onto the update the next day. I forwarded that text from before to the two people who asked for separate bills. They both were upset by the text and reassured me that I was not the a-hole. They said they too were growing tired of the Moochers and wished they stood up for themselves sooner. Then one of them said that the group vibe was disrupted when I first stopped coming. Everyone knew why. So it made the mooching the elephant in the room, and his bad for not addressing it out of his need to go along to get along. The other agreed, and they both said they missed having me there. That made me feel so good.
Yeah, smiley face.
The three of us then reached out to the solo member who didn't ask for a separate check. This person is also the organizer. The first thing she did was apologize to me for poor communication. She admitted they changed their minds about not coming in plenty of time to inform me, but she really wanted me to come. She realized she should have when she saw the look on my face. She said she was tired of the mooching too, but was too much of a coward to say something, which only fueled their
"We always do it this way"
ammo. She then filled us in on what happened after we left. It turns out the other two separate bills left shortly after I did. Everyone ended up getting separate checks, which made the two mooch couples angry. They justified their mooching the same way the chick in the text did. They have expenses, we don't, and
would it kill you all to help us have a little joy?
yeah, not happening, buddy. So, the four of us are going to start having a new group dinner at a different restaurant. Hooray for burning bridges! Let this be a lesson to all boys and girls that sometimes lighting things on fire is okay. This story has inspired other people to recount their experiences of mooches. Long ago, there was a coworker at our office who did this, only worse. We worked in a huge building with a pretty nice restaurant in the lobby. About every other week, a group would go there for lunch. It was a bit pricey, so we would go when the lunch special was especially good. Every time a group headed out, this one coworker would attach herself to the group. No one invited her because of her behavior, but she would come anyway. If we escaped before she noticed, she would come to the restaurant after us and ask to be seated at our table. We really couldn't say no without blowing things up at the office. But this restaurant wouldn't split checks during the rush of the lunch hour. One of the reasons why we only went when everyone wanted the lunch special made it easy to pay as a group. Now, this woman would conveniently excuse herself to the restroom right before the check came. Wouldn't return until the check was paid. We couldn't wait too long because we were all on a clock. She'd say, "Oh, I missed the check. I'll pay you back." Then she never did. So one day, when she left for the restroom, we left the table one by one while she was gone, except for one or two who hung around. When she got back, they told her that since she owed those that left for lunches, she could just cover them for today. Now she paid, but she never tried to lunch with us again. So let that experience being a lesson to yourself. Understand that there are people out there, as this comment says, who are far too comfortable and assuming they can do whatever they want because they're just betting on you feeling too awkward or uncomfortable to say otherwise. We often are afraid of that confrontation because there's the fear the confrontation could become aggressive or such, but most of the time, if you just bring it up, if you just point it out with a spotlight, with the most casual of tone, they usually fold because they themselves, ironically, are just as awkward and uncomfortable to, point it out to themselves. Another fun tactic if you're ever dealing with some moochers, the moment they order something necessarily expensive, order that too, but then something else on top of that. Oh, the moocher's having a steak? Well, then I'll have a steak and lobster.
Split that, cheapskate! If I'm not able to afford rent this week, neither will you!
Bridezilla ruins her own wedding, demands bridal party pay her cancelled wedding. Beginning mid-January. Starting the year strong, I swear. So my friend Dana, female 29, was supposed to be getting married this past Sunday, 2 days from this post. The wedding got cancelled and things had gotten very crazy. So Dana was getting married to Josh, 32 male. She's still in college with me and asked a few friends from college, myself included, to be her bridal party. Now, from the start, this wedding has been a disaster. I'm going to just point out a few of the crazy stuff we dealt with. 1. She refused to invite my best friend, who she's supposedly good friends with, because she thinks we're lesbian lovers. We're not. She had us go to the dress fitting and then demanded each of us pay $2,000 for each of our dresses. Apparently, she had a specific style she wanted. I can afford it, but I won't pay $2,000 a dress for one event. Some of the girls in the bridal party don't have that flexibility with money. 3. Apparently, Josh couldn't invite any single females that were not blood relatives of him. So, if he had any female friends, they were axed. 4. One of the girls in the bridal party doesn't drink because of her religion. Dana accused her of being pregnant in front of her parents and almost got her kicked out of her own house. She was not pregnant and she dropped from the bridal party. She was a class act though, and never bad talked Dana, just said she couldn't make it. We found out about it pretty much on the day of the wedding. 5. She tried to make us cancel our holidays with our families to instead go with her to a destination bachelorette party. I work full-time, even during holidays, so I told her that was not happening. More of the bridesmaids said similar things, and she dropped it. Now, the meat of the story comes on the wedding day. The day started horrible. Dana was having a meltdown because apparently the flower girl had to cancel because she has chicken pox. She was threatening to sue the mother unless she brought this sick 3-year-old to the wedding. Josh apparently was able to calm her down from this starter outburst, and we began preparations. The whole day she had constant outbursts. She made people cry, like wedding staff and bridesmaids. The maid of honor deserves a medal for the amount of diplomacy and bullshit control she had to do. I, for the most part, took the easy route and decided to work outside the bridal suite, like checking flowers, making sure food was okay, basically any excuse not to be around the bride. Eventually, I had my makeup and hair done. When the bride asked for a little bit of time alone to decompress from the stress, we didn't even fight it. You could not see a group of women running faster away. Wedding was starting in 30 minutes, so we figured we would be fine alone for that little while. I spent those 30 minutes just sitting in the chapel with my phone. It had to be about 5 minutes before the start of the wedding when maid of honor came over to tell me the wedding was canceled. I asked her what happened. What happened? Dana was having a quickie with Josh's uncle in the room. Josh caught them. I just stared at the maid of honor with my mouth pretty much about to reach the floor. She told me to run and that she was trying to get as many people out before things exploded. So I quickly got my purse, gathered the 2 bridesmaids that were carpooling with me, and we left like the devil was after us. I checked with the other bridesmaids and they had all escaped. That night I called the maid of honor to check what happened, and the tea was bad. Apparently, and rightfully, Josh called off the wedding, called her a few names, told off his uncle, and has since left with his mates to, I hope, have the biggest single man party ever. I feel so bad for him. He's an absolute gem of a man. He apparently also told Dana and her parents that she will be paying the cancellation fees. According to the maid of honor, Dana's own father had told her in front of everyone that she was paying it on her own for being a slut. I thought that was the end of it. I made the choice to separate myself from this mess until I got a call from Dana, not even an hour ago, demanding $5,000 to help pay her cancellation fees. Now, according to Dana, it was our duty as the bridal party to pay her cancellation fees. I obviously told her no, and that she might as well lose my number. I am never speaking to this woman again. This has been pretty much the reaction of all bridesmaids and the maid of honor. By the way, the maid of honor, Josh's older sister. So before we get to the small update, there are some extra things mentioned in the comments that we've got to highlight. So remember, this occurred 30 minutes before the wedding was beginning. So as you might have suspected, the bride had her makeup and hair done. And as she was cheating on her fiance, she was likely wearing her wedding dress the entire time. People asking OP if she's always been like this. Oh, we're sure there's no moral compass in there. She used to be incredibly nice way back before her engagement, and since becoming the first bride of the group, she became insufferable. We were all on our last thread. Now, in case you feel too sorry for Josh here, don't be. Apparently, he's a good-looking guy. Half the bridesmaids would be willing if he was keen on them. OP's very confident that after getting to know him a bit, he'll find a girl when he's ready in a snap. But hey, how did it turn out with those $2,000 bridesmaid dresses? Well, nobody bought the dresses. Some of the girls can't afford it. She had a full meltdown in the chat until Maid of Honor got involved and offered to buy cheaper dresses for the bridesmaids. Now, apparently the dresses were Ellie Saab, which is a famous designer. Apparently these are all sort of a reference to what that person designs. He's a very fancy man. Considering this is their website, this is the stuff that was going to be going for over $2,000 a dress. I understand OP's positioning of like, okay, yeah, look, they're very nice, but I'm not going to spend $2,000 on them. Now, OP's, of course, been accused of making this all up because
If there's something Reddit loves to poop on, it's women, Bridezillas, and cheaters.
yeah, really? That's your argument? That people are too mean to cheaters? But yeah, apparently.
This is fake because there are no cancellation fees the day of the wedding.
To which the OP has responded just kind of blatantly saying, look, I don't know how it all works. This is just what I was told at the time. Apparently receiving this text from the bride at the moment, which translating says, I need the money to pay for the wedding. The son of a bitch canceled and they are charging me. So okay, update time. 6 days later, how have things turned out? Hey guys, I know a lot of people want to know what happened. After talking to Josh yesterday, he asked me to only say that he's okay, figuring things out and moving on. We're going to stay friends with him and his sister. Dana was told that no one in the group wants to interact with her, and since then, it's been mostly radio silence. I can't share more about Josh's future plans, as he asked me not to. He did have a good laugh at some of the comments I showed him and appreciates the support. Now, the one detail I did get corrected on, for those curious, was about his uncle. He's the younger brother of Josh's mother, and he's 55 years old. I thought he was married into the family, but I got that detail wrong. I also found out the most disgusting detail is the uncle knew Dana since she was a teenager. Dana and Josh are high school sweethearts, so yeah, I kind of feel gross knowing that. So other than that, I got a major haul of cake. So at least I got something good out of this mess. So what about extra news about the uncle and his family? Well, from what I can share, I was asked to keep a lot of details private by Josh himself. His wife, the uncle's wife, is planning a divorce. That's really all he wants me to say. So yeah, ultimately a very fun tale of how every bridesmaid ran and alerted others like it was a zombie attack. And also just to defend OP's knowledge of it all a bit more, one person looks at the Spanish text as well and says, well, the version of the message makes absolute sense. She doesn't say that she had to pay a cancellation fee. She says that the son of a gun canceled the wedding and now the bride has to pay for the wedding. She probably has to pay for the resulting bill since the groom canceled and he wouldn't pay for it. So yeah, absolute scum that she is. Fricking another dude, the groom's uncle, on your wedding day, at the goddamn venue, in your wedding dress. Oh, but you know, to be fair, she was just decompressing from all the stress. Now for a fresh update on a story we've already come across the first part. Of course, if this tale is still fresh in your mind, feel free to just skip to the update. My wife, female 32, recently had wine spilled on her by my best friend, female 31, during our wedding. Now she is demanding that I cut ties. Ailey and I met through a mutual friend in 2012 during a pub quiz at university. I was quite attracted to her and actually told her so at the end of the evening, but she told me she had a boyfriend even though she was flattered all the same. Fast forward 3 years later. I meet Eliza at the Edinburgh Fringe and we just clicked immediately. Politics, music, cinema, whatever the subject approached, there was a spark that I'd never felt with anyone else. Like, she just made sense with me. Her personality was just vivid. It's hard to describe, but I'll try. On first impression, she was so knowledgeable and enthusiastic. I was taken aback by her intensity. From that point onwards, we were inseparable and I was dead certain of our future together long before we got engaged. Enter Ailey again. I start a new job at an advertising firm with a position in web design, and she was one of the only people I knew. At first, it was a little awkward, given our history, especially considering that she was now married to the boyfriend she was dating back then. But there was no one else I knew at the firm, and we both had partners at this point, so it couldn't hurt to be friends, right? And to be honest, I'm glad, because I feel like our chemistry as friends superseded any potential we might have had as a couple. She's clever and has a bit of a cheeky personality. I'm quite dry and sarcastic myself, so I reckon we have a pretty fun dynamic. Eliza doesn't seem to feel that way, though. Sometimes when it's been the three of us, she has expressed a feeling of being left out, or that Ailey has been making fun of her. I don't see it. It's just our dynamic, but there have been a couple of nights where Eliza's been in tears because of something that Ailey has said. One time, Eliza got out of her seat and Ailey sat down where she was sitting to show me a video on YouTube. When Eliza came back in, she saw Ailey leaning next to me and was upset for the rest of the night. Sometimes there have been times when Ailey has said something that Eliza has read as a come on. Like when I said I missed swimming because I felt out of shape, Ailey said, "Oh, the two of us should go together," with a playful punch. Eliza didn't say anything at the time, but her discomfort was visible. Things really came to a head though on our wedding, and I think the stress of it really got to Eliza. During the reception, Ailey bumped into her and red wine spilled all over her dress. She was bawling the entire evening. We're now on our honeymoon, and Eliza has said she hopes for a fresh start, but she feels like Ailey might have spilled her wine on purpose. She's suggesting that I cut ties with her, and if I'm honest, I'm not sure I want to. Where do I go from here? So to revise some comments at the time, Opie, the number of times I've bumped into someone and spilt my drink on them is exactly once in my entire life, and I was a Schmidt-faced teenager. You are either astoundingly naive, or Ailey is somehow the unluckiest woman in the world to accidentally spill her red wine on the bride on her wedding day. I think you know which one is more likely. Your wife won't be staying your wife for much longer unless you actually start listening to her and stop dismissing all of her fears and baseless insecurities. So Opie responded to this to give more detail as to the interaction that occurred. So Ailey was getting a drink from the bar. Eliza had taken off part of her gown for dining and dancing purposes and was leaving our bedroom to return to our table. They bumped into each other and Eliza had a huge red stain over her dress. Ailey made an offhand joke and fled, and Eliza ran up to me in bits and pieces. Now, it sounded really bad when Eliza told me, and she was in bits about the wine spilling all over her dress, and I went to Ailey and asked her what the hell she was up to. Ailey was so mortified and told me she wanted to sink into a hole. She's dyspraxic and has struggled with falling at impromptu moments. I've actually witnessed it happening before. There was a meeting at work and she got all of our colleagues coffee. The moment she came in, she tripped and fell, coffee flying everywhere. So okay, apparently there is evidence that Ailey has this ailment, pun not intended. But is it legit? Why would you do this accidentally and then make a joke and then run away? It's probably the least appropriate thing to do in that moment. But as people ask this, Opie does make a pretty valid point on just human behavior in general. Well, she's a really awkward person and doesn't know how to interact with people sometimes. There have been times I have been upset with her because of how glib she's been about personal issues. And to be fair, that could actually explain a lot of Ailey's behavior here. What Eliza is interpreting as this harassment and disrespect coming onto OP is all just Ailey being completely ignorant of how she's appearing to others. Sure, making an offhand joke and running away is not the appropriate thing to do in response to this interaction, but does it truly make her an a-hole entirely worth cutting off? Or does OP's long-term friend deserve a chance to actually, work on these things? Bit of an intervention of sorts, healthy shaming. Now, a lot of comments seem to be adamant that this is far too consistent for Ailey to be continuously accidentally doing things that cause your wife a lot of distress and suffering, to the point that OP's responses show that he's starting to kind of see what they're talking about and is really afraid this might be the case. Not only to realize that he's actually being a bad partner right now, but also to realize that Ailey's actually being a grade A cunt to his wife. He makes another note here that Eliza sometimes says to me that she can intuit people's opinions and feelings within minutes of meeting them. I've never been like that. And my folks have always said that I'm terrible with picking up on basic things. I was at an aunt's house when I was a kid, taking her ear off, and she said, "Oh, it's getting late," multiple times. It was only until my mom dragged me out that I picked up that she wanted me to leave. And you know what? That explains so much of OP's reaction to all of this. So a few days later, OP humbly returns, resolved to make things right. But of course, we're reading the story today, so things did not at all go over smoothly. I posted here recently looking for guidance on how to deal with my wife's anxiety and hurt revolving around my friend, and seems like I got read the riot act. Probably rightly so. I have been completely inconsiderate of Eliza's feelings and how she feels about these roastings, and you alerted me to the possibility that Ailey is doing this just to be a little schmidt. So I sat down with Eliza and we had an in-depth conversation about the wedding incident. I got her to describe the event step by step in her own words. I was leaving the lobby into the dining venue and Ailey was a little tipsy at this point and already stumbling from the bar. She was initially walking slower but seemed to speed up when she saw me. We collided into each other and she pulled an ashamed face and made a joke about me looking like Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl before scurrying away. She seemed embarrassed in the moment, but she didn't apologize to me. I heard from other people that she was appalled about what happened, but I never heard anything from her directly. It just paints a picture of habitual microaggressions from her that has festered into this ugly anxiety whenever she's around. I pretty much predict whenever I'm in her vicinity, there will be weird behavior or uncomfortable comments, and I don't want to continue being in a situation where my husband brings someone into my home who resents me for simply existing. So that was a real gut punch to me. For me, I always felt like it was just insecurity about me fancying Ailey for 10 minutes years ago, but Eliza is really torn up about this. She said that the honeymoon has been miserable because the memory has been swirling around in her mind, and she feels like I'm going to downplay or dismiss it. No one should feel like they can't just be themselves, especially not at home. I didn't realize what a schmithead I'd been, and I apologized profusely to Eliza and decided to phone up Ailey to confront her about the wedding incident. So I did, and it didn't go well. Basically, I told her that Eliza was really hurt by the wedding dress incident, that she had been hurt by her behavior for a long time, and that if she can't bring herself to apologize to Eliza's face, at least she should pay towards getting the stain removed, and if she couldn't bring herself to even do that, then our friendship had to stop. To say that Ailey was taken aback would be an understatement. She was completely blindsided, asking what was wrong with their interactions that made me want to go to such extremes. I mentioned the leapfrog comment, and she went,
But even you called her that.
stating that Eliza called her Garfield because of her weight and bright orange hair. When I mentioned that she ran towards Eliza and didn't apologize for spilling wine on her, she got really upset and started shouting that she wasn't running at her to her wine at her dress. She was running from her because she didn't want to talk at that moment because she feels like Eliza hates her and she doesn't know how to go about it. That's right, her excuse for running into Eliza was because she was trying to run away from her. She started pointing out times when Eliza had been funny towards her, and I basically said, okay, right, but this isn't about when Eliza has hurt you. This is about when you've hurt Eliza and that it's got so bad that it needs to be talked about. And she started laughing. It was really uncomfortable. I know she does this when she's anxious about something. Eliza asked me if things were okay from the other room, and Ailey demanded if this was set up, and when I tried to explain myself, she hung up. Her husband even phoned me, insisting that he would pay for the damage if it is less stressful for me. I told Ewan, her husband, that I appreciated that, but I needed to know where Ailey stood regarding what I just said. Ewan told me that Ailey makes jokes whenever she's anxious or uncomfortable, and that they've rowed about it in the past, but the wedding dress incident is a major issue, and that he wants to smooth things over as much as I do. So him and Ailey will pay towards dry cleaning, whilst a condolences hamper is sent to Eliza. Eliza was relieved that Ewan was so understanding, but she wasn't thrilled about Ailey's reaction. Basically said that the Garfield comment was always about her hair and never about her weight, and that she was deliberately trying to make it seem like the bad behavior went both ways. I don't think it's went both ways either, because I've never noticed Eliza roasting Ailey in any real way. Eliza has suggested we try marriage counseling. I was a bit shocked at first because we've only been married a month, but I decided maybe that's the way forward, because if Eliza reckons that we need counseling for it, then it's clearly a problem. So yeah, me and Eliza are going to try marriage counseling, and my future with Ailey is uncertain. So when someone asks you this sort of question, the correct response is,
Of course I will apologize and pay for the stain. I am mortified that happened, and I feel terrible it upset Eliza on her wedding day.
incorrect response.
Why are you being so mean to me?
Either way, I don't think this story's ending anytime soon. As if things do go to the point of cutting each other off, as other comments point out that, he works with Ailey. Are you gonna change jobs? Are you gonna force her to change jobs? Others snap back at this, being like, oh, it's easy to cut off friends, especially actually work friends, but we don't know the work friend dynamic there. He's new to the job compared to Ailey, especially that workplace. You really think if he starts just cutting Ailey off that he's gonna have a pitch perfect, beautiful time at work now for the foreseeable future? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But now, friends, we'll end today's stories there. Thank you as always for watching. Love your face, drink water, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.